Just a few things. We're going to talk through a few documents and resources, and then we'll jump into our test instance, and I will show you all kind of what the OneRoster looks like from the admin side, and we'll talk about it from the teacher side. The one thing that I will state very clearly, I have done my best to replicate this as much as possible to what you're going to see in your live instance. But knowing the fact that I'm working in a test PowerSchool instance and a test Canvas instance, there are a few things that we will have to use our imagination with, I guess, is the best way I know how to phrase it. So I will do my best to show you the full functionality of the OneRoster features. I do have slide decks or the screenshots that we can kind of talk through the other things that we'll have to kind of visualize. Just as a reminder, this is kind of our agenda. We're just going to talk through things. I always put Q&A on our home base agendas, but you know that you can always interrupt me, raise your hand, use the chat, whatever the best meets your needs. Just as a reminder, what does this look like as far as on the PowerSchool side? So I know many of you may not be your PowerSchool administrator, but you work very closely with them, or they're in the same division or team. So just as a reminder, what does this look like in PowerSchool? That you should be seeing, they go under the start page, system administration, system settings, plugin management, and the plugin management dashboard. There are two plugins that they will see right now. You should all have the SIF agent, which is the Canvas-PowerSchool-API plugin version 1050, and its status is enabled. That is what we are currently leveraging to, if you haven't already concluded your school year, to finish out the 23-24 or the 22-23 school year. And then you will also see the OneRoster Instructor API plugin, and that is version 1.1, and it is also enabled as its status. That is what we will be moving to, and that was what we've been testing with and pulling back some data on your instances to make sure everything is ready to go post EOI. Now, as a part of the PowerSchool EOI process, we will be removing the SIF agent plugin and deactivating it and removing it from your PowerSchool instances. So nothing that you all need to do, or nothing your PowerSchool coordinator needs to do to make sure that process is successful. We're going to handle that at the state level. Any questions on just the plugin or the PowerSchool aspect so far? So what does this look like for the changes for the SIS integration? So as an admin inside your instance, right now you're going to be seeing what's on the left-hand side of this screen. So when I go under admin, my PSU and the SIS integration, under the SIF agent, I only really can see grade syncing and utilities. And utilities we don't necessarily leverage because we do our pausing dates with Instructure as a whole. We don't do that manually. So I can see grade passback. Under the OneRoster, I will actually be able to see rostering information. And so this is kind of where I'm going to jump out into our demo instance where, so I said I'm under admin, which is our NC test, and the SIS integrations. And so here I can see roster imports as they've been completed. And you can see they're done by two different entities. So whether that's the Canvas integrations admin or myself. So as an admin, I do have the ability to run a scheduled sync. You can see when it's set to run next, which is tonight at 10 p.m. And I can run that manually. Now, I would say, and I haven't asked Instructure this, but I would say, you know, keeping in mind things like server capacity, time of day, utilization, and as well as, you know, the size of your PSU would depend on how quickly a manually executed sync would run. If you're a smaller PSU, you're more than likely able to, if you needed to run a manual sync, you could. And I think anyone would be able to, it just depends on how long it would take. So just keeping that in mind. What I can look at here are also some roster import information. So you can see how the numbers are sequential for each of those rosters. If I click on this, it opens up some sort of data. And those of you that are better with viewing and analyzing data could probably tell me more specifically what that means, but I'm sure there's something to glean here, very helpful information at some point. I'm gonna say I don't know the answer to that. Yeah, I thought it might be JSON data, but Patrick, I didn't wanna say that and be wrong, so I appreciate you putting that in the chat there. So that's gonna give you some information, as well as when I click on the status of completed, I can see some additional information here. And there are little information bubbles that I can hover over to give me more information. Yes, you can do that. You can, because sometimes that data does not make any sense to me, even when I put it into a nicer format. Oh, someone's having a good day. Listening to some jazz, that's fun. So anyways, so I can see the the extraction details, the conversion details, and then the three imports. And so like I said, I can hover over each one of these and see more information about, when the import job was received and processed by Canvas. I also like this on the extraction configurations. I can scroll down here and see some more of that data that's being pulled out of the sys, knowing that these are not the school IDs that we're probably most familiar with when it comes to PowerSchool, but these are the schools. You can see there are some filters in place of the academic year, enabled users, enrollments, courses, accounts, sections, and so forth. So here again, just giving a deeper lens as to what the data that is being pulled out of PowerSchool for your Canvas instance. So for those of you that I know that really enjoy looking at this type of data, diving into it, I think it's going to be a nice added feature for you all to see some of that additional information. I also still have the same grade sync option. So that's just a new tab now that we have the rostering, so I can see some of my past back things that have been successful and unsuccessful. Here again, that has more to do with the fact that we're working in some sandbox instances, not necessarily the OneRoster protocol. I can see some stats here on those things. So I can see some grade sync statistics. So if you're able to, wanting to know more about that as your entity as a whole, you can kind of look at your instance to see more information there. And the utilities is that, like I said, that rollover integration, not things we necessarily probably want to touch or deal with, but you can look at some of that information. So, but I really wanted to show you the rostering and the grade syncs and the statistics tab that are, well, this one is not new, but the rostering and the other two are new for us. I'm going to pause here and say, what questions, thoughts, comments?
You too. Bye-bye.
Do you have? Patrick, manual sync, can we do a full sync or just a, I don't know what you mean by diff.
I think what he might be talking about is like the remaster grade passback, where we like sync absolutely everything in the current Canvas. Mm-hmm. Or is this just doing the new stuff?
Right. So yeah, keeping in mind that your rostering is different from the remaster passback or grade sync. So I mean, it's going to execute the same scheduled task that you would do as a nightly sync. So, and I believe the nightly sync for all of our instances are just doing deltas. So it would not be syncing everything every night like always. It just syncs the deltas from your integration with PowerSchool. But Ashley or Nick, correct me if I'm wrong on that.
Hey, Corey, just jumping in here. So you saw the roster config earlier. You showed them that. It will do the complete job. So that'll be any import. So do you see how there's 3 imports on the rostering jobs? Those are separate imports where we are incrementally importing some of the data and diffing some of the other data. So it's a mixture of both in the same job.
Oh, okay. Other questions, thoughts, comments? We shouldn't be seeing the roster. Correct, Aaron. You will not see that until after EOY. So that's why I just wanted to give you guys an opportunity to kind of see it now. I know you can't really experience it or play with it, but just trying to give you another lens into it. And yes, Patrick, I would assuming if they needed a full data sync of your SIF data, yeah, I would assume you, or not SIF, OneRoster data, you would put a ticket in for that. No, Dave, the remaster grade back, that is on the teacher side. This is just you as an admin. That remaster passback is still there as a button, and I can show you that when we get to the teacher side. So this will be implemented post EOY. So whenever your sync is resuming after PowerSchool end of year. So some of you, that is July the 7th or the 15th. That's when we're coming up with OneRoster as opposed to using the SIF agent. We need to worry about mapping structure of our course codes using prefixes. Do you mean like for like a blueprint course or?
Yeah, sorry about that. So currently like we have our school code dot the teacher's name dot the course code dot section number dot the end of the year, and then the name of the course. Terms have changed a little bit over time. I didn't know if that is just staying the same or if it's universal for everybody now. Like, do we put the 1AB first? So just, do we need to not say anything if we want to keep things the same, or is there mapping options to tweak the way that looks in our system?
I'm assuming that mapping is remaining the same, but Nick or Ashley, feel free to correct me because we're pulling very similar fields.
Yeah, it will largely remain the same. There may not be every single field available that might be extended from SIF, because SIF has extension fields. But if it's available in the OneRoster API, we will map to it and essentially try to recreate the existing integration with the OneRoster spec.
Sure thing. Any other questions? Admin side, rostering, provisioning. I would say not as an admin necessarily, Samuel. There's nothing you need to do. When we get to the teacher side, there is a little bit of a different interface as to what the teachers will be doing. So you may want to leverage some of the guides that are here that I'm going to share, that you may want to share with your teachers. So whenever you start back, that they know what the little changes or little nuances are when it comes to setting up their grade books. All right, well, if you have other questions, so I'm going to jump over back to the slide deck. What I wanted to share with you all in the slide deck, also on slide 6, are some of those guides to some of the resources we just looked at. So you as an admin, viewing the roster job history, so coming out to this guide, what does it mean? What do all these buttons mean? Canvas always does a great job with their guides and pointing that information out to you. There's those JSON files we were talking about, how you can kind of view that in a CSV format if you needed to dive deeper into that. There are those guides. So what are our changes for our teachers? And so when I come over here, not that, I am in just a demo course. And here again, this is where a little bit of the magic is going to have to be, use your imagination. I've got some assignments that are in groups. And, traditionally we have needed assignments to have that arrow with the box with the arrow in it to indicate that it is a synced category with PowerSchool. And the way in the past we've done that is come to the little 3 dots here. And there used to be a button here that said import grading categories or something to that effect. Now they will see a button that says sync sys categories. And when I click on that, this little window comes up and it identifies that I have 2 categories inside of my Canvas course, and they are not currently associated with any of my sys created categories. So when I open this, you'll see that I have a section. This is the section sys-id, which this would be unique for your PSU. And then here is where I couldn't necessarily replicate this because of terms and a sandbox instance and all things y'all probably don't care about when it comes to PowerSchool, but you would actually see then my PowerSchool created categories. So I would have created in my PowerTeacher Pro gradebook my test category, and here I would have an option to select it to then sync those 2 categories together. Same as before, in PowerTeacher Pro, teachers need to go in and set up their gradebook categories, homework, quiz, test, project, whatever it is they're going to be using, and they need to have matching groups inside of Canvas just as before. So here's what I would do. I would click on that particular category, I would hit sync categories, and those 2 would then be linked together, and I would get that same symbol that we have seen in the past of that arrow and the box around it indicating that it is a PowerSchool synced category. So not a major change, just a little bit of matching that has to occur there on the teacher side as far as importing those or linking those categories between Canvas and PowerSchool.
No, Corey, that is major. Because for teachers to already have their categories set up and then pull over the things from Canvas and then have to move their stuff to the ones that, I mean, from PowerSchool, and then have to move their stuff to the one that's got the little icon on it. That is major. I mean, this is wonderful. This is a big improvement.
Yeah, I like this. I think it's nice, and
I
it
mean,
gives
it's
a
a few
clear.
extra steps, but this will be great.
Yeah. I do want to show you, so just like the admin side, there are guides here that walk you through. This is something I would definitely share with your teachers. And here you can see in the screenshot that when I pull up that little window, if that assignment category is synchronized, here you can see that it's a green check. Also helpful for you as an admin, that you will be able to see which categories that are linked appropriately and which ones aren't. They can also disassociate. So if they made a mistake by a chance, and you can remove that from the PowerSchool or the gradebook linkage there. I wouldn't necessarily recommend that unless it's like, something that we have to do to rectify a situation. But I think it will be a much easier process for them to then link those categories. From the teacher perspective, of course, same as before, I can come under my grades. I can do a sync to sys, which is going to execute a manual one-time sync. I can manage those under the grade sync tab, where you will see histories of completed or failed. Here again, it's mad at me because I'm not technically the teacher in this course, and it's a whole other sandbox situation. But under utilities, like I said before, there is still our remastered grade passback and our nightly sync option. So those are all still there from the teacher perspective. Like I said, the only major change is how they are linking their categories in Canvas with their categories in PowerSchool. As I stated for the admin, there are their guides there that I would share with your teachers. All four of those I think are relevant, but of course, take them, modify them into what best follows your protocols and procedures for your PSU as it relates to syncing your grades to PowerSchool. What questions, thoughts, comments do we have on the teacher side?
I know this might be a see it when we get to that point, but if we lock Q1, will it still do the same thing with the passback and preventing the grades from syncing unless you unsync the old courses? Do you know?
As far as getting that error message of you're locking it on the PowerSchool side?
Yes.
Yes, they're still going to get that. PowerSchool obviously being the authoritative source when it comes to the grade, they're still going to get an error message that the quarter is locked. Gordon. I see you have your hand up.
Mentioned at one time about not letting teachers sync their categories until the first day. Is that still going to be the rule?
Correct. Yeah. So pulling in those. So doing this action right here of this linkage can't occur until the first day of the term, which would most likely be the first day of school, based on what is in PowerSchool.
So if they have term one, they do it on the first day of term one. If they have a term two course that's only like 6-week courses, and some of our middle schools have that, they would have to wait till term two begins to do that sync for that one, correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Now it can still exist. I can still go ahead and create the test and classwork categories.
Correct.
But I can't literally go in here and synchronize them until that first date.
All right.
Thank you. Sarah, so teachers, yes, sir. So teachers have to create the assignment groups in Canvas first and then sync categories and match up. Yes, but I would say, Sarah, do it in PowerSchool first. They need to exist in PowerSchool first, and then they would create them in Canvas as well. because what this is doing is going out and looking at PowerSchool to say what categories exist for me to sync with this test category to associate it with. And if it doesn't exist there, you'll get what I have here, which is unassociated, and you can't link it to anything.
Yeah, most teachers that are copying courses over, this is major change for them. This helps them tremendously. But if you're starting fresh, you can go ahead and do all that before the first day, and then after the first or on the first day, then you sync it up.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Are there any changes in regarding to assignment weight groups? Nope. I can still come in here. Nope, not that. Oh, Lord. Assign group weights right there in front of me. Well, excuse me. Hello. I don't know why it's doing that. That's fun. Yes, there we go. And so I could say maybe, tests are, 25% of the grade, classwork is 75%. Of course, I'm going to also remember to weight them the same in my PowerTeacher Pro gradebook so that my finals and averages are the same. But yes, none of that is changing as far as how I weight those. When cross-listing, since we're not importing, do PowerSchool categories have to be the same for all courses?
Yeah, around that, like when the instructions from Canvas was always, if we are cross-listing, you cross-list first, you wait 24 hours, and then you import your assignment categories. And in PowerSchool, say you had 4 courses you're in Canvas cross-listing together,
Mm-hmm.
the categories would have to be the exact same for all 4 of those in PowerSchool. And it seems like here you're making the categories in PowerSchool, you're making the categories or the groups in Canvas, and then just mapping them and saying, all right, this goes to this one, this goes to 4A, this goes to 2B. So still keep them all the same. Okay.
Yeah, I would say yes, just because that sounds like you could get into a very confusing situation very easily.
Yeah.
And I don't like the waters to be muddy when it centers around grades.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Yeah, and this is just kind of like seeing it in action. Like if I have assignments, and then I'm picking in Canvas, well, which ones does this map with? I might see 4 assignments, and it's like, well, which one do I choose? I don't know if there's a way, how it'll be identified which one in PowerSchool is the 4A or not, versus the 2A assignments versus the 3B assignments.
I think I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
So you should see the section number. And then that would show me this. So I would assume if I had cross-listed here, I would have multiple sections and multiple categories to select from.
Yeah. And I know we have sometimes, like if I've got a 4B and a 4B honors, like it'll just probably show 4B. I'm getting in the weeds here, but and then when I drop down, like if it's trying to pull from those different categories in PowerSchool, I'm not sure what it looks like. Like we're just imagining here. Does it just say assignments? And it's like, well, which one do I choose from? So anyway, just
I would
stuff to
assume
think about.
These would be the SIS categories that are only associated with this particular section. So I don't think you're going to see that
True.
But like
Good
I said,
point.
I know we're a little bit into imaginary category here. David, to answer your question, I have always, if we're manually cross-listing something, told my teachers to if we're manually cross-listing, do that first and then syncing your categories. I know many of you also do one-to-many provisioning, which is where the cross-listing is done for you as a part of your sysync. So if that is still set up, I think to answer Kim's question, yeah, if you're doing one-to-many, that will stay as is. That is pretty much what I just wanted to jump on here and share with you all. Like I said, please let me grab this because I know some people hopped in the call later. There are those resources. I want to make sure that you feel like you're supported. I know there's a lot of change, and I just wanted to at least give you an opportunity to see it, whether you're watching this recording later. You know, always feel free that you can reach out to the CSM team, your CSM, myself. I just want everyone to feel like it's going to be good. We're going to be fine. We're going to move forward. And this is going to be better in the long run as far as how things should look and interact. I will go ahead and stop the recording.